Hello everyone, my name is Adler and today I will be talking with my friend Gerald about the energy efficient systems used in SDE4, a prominent academic building located in the National University of Singapore. SDE4 is a multidisciplinary academic building located in the tropical land of Singapore, covering a total area of 8,514 square meters within close proximity of the university's other academic blocks. It is a relatively new architectural feat designed by the SERG architects in collaboration with Surbana Jurong, and also the very first net zero building in Southeast Asia. Right, based on what I've studied, an intensive amount of planning and brainstorming surely had to be done in order to achieve such a feat. The designers attempt to manage and integrate three major aspects to achieve a net zero building, which are building design, sustainable systems, and occupant responsibilities. As seen on the graph on the right, calculations were made in order to estimate the energy demand for different aspects of the building. Sustainable and energy-efficient strategies were progressively introduced into the scheme, reducing the simulated amount of energy consumption to a point that can be satisfied by the maximum amount of 1,200 photovoltaic panels covering the site. The fruit of their labor were recognized and awarded by many organizations distinguished in the green and sustainable movement, the most significant one being the Building and Construction Authority or BCA Green Mark Award and certification. Not only was it the very first university building in the world to be WELL certified gold, but it was also the first in Singapore to achieve a prestigious WELL certification in the first place. The major sustainable aspects of the building can be generally categorized into three different energy efficient systems, namely renewable energy, ventilation, and lighting system. Each of these are composed of their own set of subtopics, which will be further studied throughout the video. Before we begin, it is important to first understand the climate that is present on our site. This is crucial because design strategies and technologies vary across different climates. For Singapore, it is in the simplest sense a tropical country, meaning that it is mostly hot, humid, and rainy throughout the year. Its position on the equatorial belt grants opportunities to explore and demonstrate sustainable ideas specific to present environment, where prevalent conditions such as wind, humidity, and sunshine are exploited for sustainable use. There are several notable climate studies utilized for the design of the SDE4 building. The first is relative humidity, which is considerably high at the percentage of 83.9%, even regularly exceeding 100% during periods of heavy rain. Due to the country's close position to the equator, the quality of sunlight it received is rather consistent throughout the year. Thus, cloud coverage becomes the greatest factor affecting daily sunlight hours.
Up orientation. The sun rises from east, goes down to the west with a very high solar angle during the noontime, resulting in a massive solar radiation hitting not only the south facade, but also the east and the west facade. And the SDE get 100% of its power through a solar farm and solar PV panels on its roof, which comprises about 1,200 solar PV panels on it. And the NUS chiller plant used as a cool air is distributed throughout the building by using a distribution system composed of a metal that works for transporting the air on it. Now, let's talk about the wind orientation. The design carried the principle of nuclear tropical architecture in South Asia. More than 50% of the total area is naturally ventilated, and most of the rooms can be opened to parallel breaches that air conditioning is usually used when it's needed, while the space interpersonal between cooler volume benefits from the cross ventilations and thermal buffer social space that eliminated the significant tropical barrier dust, and their space are well shaded to lower the ambient temperature and located to catch the prevalent winds running predominantly along the northeast and the southeast. And this is the view from southwest and northwest. And now, let's talk about the renewable energy. But before that, let's talk about the solar panels. This building has about 1,200 solar PV panels that can generate up to 500 megawatt hours of electricity a year. That is sufficient to meet all the energy needs of this building. If they continue to even further reduce the energy consumptions, SDE4 could potentially to be net positive, and whenever they have collection or assets that were put into the grid, and then they can share with the other buildings on campus, like the data diagram pasted on the slide here. Last but not least, the solar panels can also help the building to save about $180.
The goal of SDE4's landscape design was to seamlessly integrate greenery, water, and community to create spaces that encourage lifestyle activities, teaching, and research around water. It follows the Active Beautiful Clean Waters or ABC Waters program developed by the Public Utility Board, Singapore's national water agency. The water harvesting system in SDE4 building are sourced from two separate water catchment areas that both reduce heat gain on the roof to a certain extent. Catchment Area A is located on the west side and covers a third of the rainwater runoff, while Catchment Area B is located on the east side and covers 2/3 of the rainwater runoff. The reason behind this division of rainwater runoff is based on the calculated optimal detention volume that should be available on ground within limits of what is suitable for plant life within the bioretention basins. The more conventional water harvesting system is found in catchment area B. 2/3 of the rainwater collected from the roof is stored in a rainwater harvesting tank to be used for flushing and irrigation. Any overflow from the harvesting tank will be directed to the detention tank before it is controllably discharged. As part of the ABC Water's design features, SDE4 uses a natural purification process to improve water quality while enhancing the aesthetics and biodiversity of the landscape. Central to this is the design of bioretention basins within catchment area A. To put it simply, rainwater runoff is redirected down the building into a pond before being purified through a series of rain gardens. Rainwater runoff from the pond is cleansed as it infiltrates into the soil media of the bioretention basin, removing sediments and soluble nutrients. Vegetation plays a vital role in maintaining the porosity of the soil media and its long-term treatment performance. The treated water filtrate is collected by perforated pipes and is conveyed to the detention tank for controlled discharge. In cases of heavy rain, overflowing rainwater runoff that is not absorbed into the soil is spilled into the next basin for filtration. The integration of a bioretention basin not only reduces flow velocity and peak flow discharge, but it also improves stormwater quality, as green elements also act as catalysts for biodiversity through nectar plants that attract birds and butterflies. This enhances surrounding landscape aesthetics that benefits the educational environments as opposed to conventional drains. 2 water feature ponds are located at the upstream and downstream ends of the landscape profile and showcase the water quality improvement before and after the natural purification process. As rainwater comes down from the roof and into the opening of Pond A, it pushes itself out with a force relative to the volume of water collected, turning into a gravity-driven fountain. From there, water collects in the pond and then flows out into the rain gardens, initiating the biofiltration process. Purified rainwater that ends up in Pond B is not held longer than 4 hours because it is released through the detention tank. This is to avoid mosquito breeding, and thus it is designed as an empty pond. So even though the contribution of rainwater harvesting in reducing energy consumption may not be significant in the context of a building, the recirculation of water reduces need for potable water, thus decreasing the energy demand on a national scale.
Lighting system. The building forms stable best by increasing shading capacity and the potential of natural lighting and ventilation. And the building envelope of SDE4 allows a good quality light and natural ventilation into the interior. And the large overhang roof together with the shading devices can provide a cooler interior to the building. This is the overall lighting system used in NUS SDE4 to save the energy consumptions. By applying all these lighting features can help the building to save about 60% of energy. Designing for lighting has to be considered as the initial stage of this building design. And this daylighting saves power and HVAC by reducing the quality of artificial lighting use. The usage of electrical light produces a lot of heat whenever natural lighting generates hardly any heat if it is properly controlled. The natural lighting may save up to 75% of energy required to light out the building, which is also lowering the building temperature and electrical expenses. And the structure is designed to maximum the natural lighting and reduce the usage of artificial light. And the lighting with LED accounts for 90% of all lightings and 60% reduction in energy use. And by changing the roller blinds and artificial lighting, we may regulate the amount of light that enters the building. During the night time, the lighting is the main source to bright up the building, and the LED and downlight are commonly used. The LED light that is installed in the building comes in a variety of holes, and each of them creates a particular atmosphere and level of comfort for the house and is mostly occupied by the students, tutors, and lecturers. Then light sensors are fitted to monitor natural lighting and automatically dim or switch artificial lighting as needed depending on the level of light in the space. And the building lighting is utilized mostly for energy conservation because sunlight is the primary light source for the building. The LED and downlights are typically used at night time. Now let's talk about the passive strategies that used in this building. Access of daylight was achieved by frequenting the building space and allowing each of the space to have a large windows. 100 occupants are within 75 meters to windows with access of daylight while working on their studio projects. And the solar shading is provided by an overshading roof, and the roof accommodates an array of PV cells which generates additional electricity. For the building lowers the needs of electric light in the room to reduce solar heat gain in the east and the west elevations, which are covered with undulating perforated aluminium. This diagram shows the usage of collecting of 80% and 50% of tungstens with the use of overhead walls, and a double glass wall used to ensure a balance between natural light and privacy. The quick glass used to improve the natural lighting massing, and the solar shading panels provides the shades in the morning and the evening. And the use of skylight tube as a dome installed on the building's roof simply transfer the light from the sun from the exterior into the interior. These are the natural lighting impact to the room on the 6th floor. In the building, 500 lux generator office space should have this as minimum light level. And a diagram pasted on the right side shows the lighting is suitable for the prolonged work or computers, machineries, and reading activities involved in this area. And based on our observations, during the night time, all the lights are controlled through dimmer switches. After we visited the building SDE4, we realized they use a light shelf to improve the daylight and also to reduce the cooling, and at the same time, they also used to increase the occupants' productivity and comfort. And the aluminum shading panels is used to reduce the amount of direct sunlight entering the building, and this actually given a space to control the interior brightness and limiting the heat in the summer. And lastly is a filtered glass, and this actually used to reduce the glare and lowers the cooling expenses. And this at the same time, it allows most of the rooms to be adequately illuminated without the use of artificial lights on a bright day.
The building was envisioned as a porous architecture structured in a juxtaposition of platforms and boxes, expressing its programmatic content. Most of the rooms can be opened to prevailing breezes, more than 50% of the total area being naturally cross-ventilated and acting as thermal buffers or social spaces. The design incorporates a number of shading strategies. A large overhanging roof shades the building from the sun's heat, while the east and west facades are designed as a veil of undulating perforated aluminum sheets that can be adjusted in different angles to filter sunlight, moderating solar heat gain and providing a cooler interior. The interstitial spaces between the inner and outer skins on the east and west facades are designated for research. In these areas, elements of the facade can be dismantled and replaced with new systems depending on the school's research needs. Air conditioning is only used when needed within the more enclosed spaces that make up porous areas of the building. To meet the net zero energy requirements, the design for SDE4 found a need to rethink conventional air conditioning, which typically accounts for up to 60% of a building's total energy load in a tropical country. It is conventional wisdom in tropical climates that indoor temperatures should be brought down between 23 to 25 degrees Celsius, primarily using air conditioning, which consumes a lot of energy. With intent to minimize reliance on mechanical cooling, SDE4 utilizes an innovative hybrid cooling system designed by Transolar Klima Engineering. Rather than using full air conditioning systems to regulate indoor room temperatures, the hybrid system is intended to work with the local climate by supplying rooms with 100% fresh pre-cooled air. Although this may bring in higher temperatures and humidity as opposed to the conventional system, it is augmented with evaporative cooling using elevated air speeds by ceiling fans, thus achieving peak comfortability that is only possible in a humid tropical climate such as Singapore. The ventilation strategy of SDE4 also focuses on a control strategy that balances occupant comfort and energy consumption. Users are given control over their own comfortability by adjusting conditions based on their needs, thus maximizing the use of different variables that contribute to the efficiency of the cooling system. It takes into account the manipulation of multiple environmental parameters in achieving user comfort rather than only relying on temperature control that is keyed into the conventional air conditioning system. To ensure that the energy reduction strategies implemented are effective in ensuring user comfort within the space, the environmental conditions of enclosed spaces were measured primarily in temperature and humidity. A subjective survey was conducted by occupants as well, showing high levels of user acceptance varied based on general feedback as well as controllability.
Healthily designed. With the overall concept of the design, the users are able to connect indoor and outdoor spaces. Students can come out to have their relaxed discussion. And with the huge overhang roof, it creates shading help to reduce the solar impact inside the building, and this can also reduce the need for energy consumptions to cool down the building. Conclusions: the National University of Singapore SDE4 buildings is a great net zero buildings with strategies that should be further explored and studied in the development of sustainable buildings within a tropical climate like Malaysia. As Malaysians, we can learn from their approach by experimenting on their existing energy efficient features in the context of our own projects. This includes optimizing natural lighting, maximizing energy efficiency, using eco-friendly materials, implementing rainwater harvesting systems, and incorporating more green spaces into our architectural constructions. By prioritizing sustainable architecture, Malaysia may be able to begin making noticeable leaps in reducing energy consumptions, minimizing environmental impacts, as well as creating healthier and more comfortable living, working environment for communal and development. And that's all from our presentations, and we hope you enjoy it. Thank you.